Elaine Madison. Archive ID number 17.0025. That's how the Institute on World War II and the Human Experience finds me. But actually, I prefer to be called Dolly. That's what the nuns named me when I was in the hospital as a baby, and the name stuck. The Institute holds our lives. We are real people, and they protect our thoughts, pictures, and other tangibles. You'll hear from a few of us this morning who wrote letters to our loved ones. We are on the home front, at training camps, and overseas. Our collected experiences, emotions, and love reside in our words. I began writing to my mother back home in Ohio when I was sent to the U.S. Naval Training School as a WAVES, short for Women Accepted for Volunteer Emergency Service, when I was 20 years old. May 25th, 1945, dear Mother, we just underwent the most rigid inspection which we'll probably ever have to go through. Mock captain's inspection by our commanding officer, Miss Ensign Patrick. She went to the little room where there are only the two girls, and she said, "Good afternoon, Seaman!" And we said, "Good afternoon, Miss Patrick." And Madeline must have batted an eyelash or something, for she screams at her with that southern drawl, "Where you gonna keep those eyes?" And Madeline said, "On the wall, Miss Patrick." And she said, "That's better. Now keep them there." And I glanced over at Madeline, who was just a very little thing with very fine features, and then I saw her lip start to shake, and then a sob was heard, and I thought, now this is the end. Miss Patrick wheeled around, and by that time the tears were gushing. "Did anyone say anything to make you cry?" And by that time she had her arm around Madeline, and she gave Specialist Dockery and I that, "Oh, the poor little kid, look." And then she asked her what she was afraid of and why she was afraid of demerits, and finally told her to lie down on her bunk and cry it out, but Madeline said she'd stand there. Miss Patrick said, "That's a brave girl," and went out. Love, Dolly. I like you. I love you.
Staff Sergeant Bascom Walden Sparkman. Archive ID number 18.0019. I served with the service company for the 753rd Tank Battalion Division, which was attached as armored support to the 36th and 45th Infantry. I started in Africa. The bulk of my time was spent in Italy, France. My letters to my wife, Eleanor, Plant City, Florida. May 6, 1943. My dearest Eleanor, wish you could see the place we are in now. You'd be surprised to know just where I am. All I can tell you is that from the boat, things are awful pretty. Another thing, sure we'll be glad to get my feet on solid ground again. This is one time a fellow has to keep secrets from his wife. It sure hurts not to be able to tell everything. There isn't anything to do but obey orders. I don't know if I should tell this or not, but if I shouldn't, it'll be cut out, so I will. I did get to see the... Turns out they did cut it. Made me want to go ashore, get a better look. We'll have to do that when I get home again. Always yours, Basket.
PFC Leon Lindauer Jr. from Savannah, Georgia. Archive ID number 98.0767. I am the youngest child, only boy, with 3 older sisters, Marion, Jean, and Amy. My father died when I was 2, so I'm very close to my mother. I enlisted in the Army in 1943 when I was 18 years old. My letters are to my mother, my sister Amy, and her husband Joe. My basic training was at Fort McPherson in Georgia, then I went to Camp Fannin in Texas. I was shipped to Italy and served as part of the 351st Regiment of the 88th Infantry Division of the 5th Army. November 8, 1943. Dear Ma, Amy, and Joe, I got 2 cans of fudge from Jean yesterday, and today I got a box of candy from Marion. All the boys look to me when they are hungry.
Staff Sergeant Roy S. Simmons, Archive ID 99.0055. I served with the 152nd Infantry Regiment, 38th Infantry Division in the Philippines.
I'm his wife, Viva. We married in August 1936 and are from West Virginia. Roy was 31 when he entered the Army in 1942.
September 28th, 1942. Dear wife, I cannot see you tonight, so I'll do the next best. I'll write you a letter. I've been getting a letter from you almost every day. Thanks a lot. Your husband, Roy.
Lieutenant Barbara Gear, Archive ID 00.0545. I'm originally from Nebraska, but moved to California to be near my mother, Frances, who is also a nurse. I spent 18 months at the Santa Ana Army Base in the Army Nurse Corps before I was sent to the European Theater. I was attached to the 203rd General Hospital, along with the 190th and 194th. My letters might sound flighty, but I didn't want my mother to worry. Also, I took censorship very seriously, and I wrote my letters accordingly. August 18th, 1943, Santa Ana Air Base, Santa Ana, California. Dear Francis, Monday I go on a field trip of what is known as a bivouac. We wear blue slacks and blue wash blouses en route in trucks, and wear a green coverall and hat when we're there. Low-heeled brown Oxfords. After 4 p.m. we can go in swimming, which means wading to me, as I don't attempt deep water. For one day, we eat those rations like my brother Jerome used to do. The rest of the time, we eat good. We learn how to chlorinate or sterilize stream water for drinking and all sorts of things. Your loving daughter, Barbara.
July 3rd, 1945. Dear Mom, still nothing new. We had our company meeting yesterday, during which time they explained to us about our departure. After our billets are posted, we won't be able to tell where or when we're leaving, but remember our signals. Red and Silver Fox is Hospital at Bethesda. The movie This Man's Navy is for a Robber's Mate at Lakehurst, New Jersey. And Lincoln Trainer or Control at Atlanta, Georgia is Peaches. I'll try and slip the data in some way if I can. I don't know how strict their censorship will be. Love, Dolly. I like you. I love you. July 7th, 1945. Dear Mom, I've written you a couple of cards in the interim, but I couldn't tell you anything then because I didn't know for sure what I was doing, so I didn't mail them. I still can't tell you anything for a while, but I am very happy with my billet. I understand This Man's Navy with Wallace Beery is going to be on at home around the 27th of July. I'm not sure exactly when, but don't miss it. It's a good show. Love, Dolly. I like you. I love you.
November 29, 1943. Dear Ma, Amy, and Joe, I hold the record of getting more boxes in the company than anybody else, so keep it up. December 12, 1943. Dear Ma, Amy, and Joe, I received the box of food this morning and it came at the right time. My pantry was empty.
November 3rd, 1943. Dear wife, wish I was there to take the milk up for you and I could loaf a little and we could still go to bed early. I don't seem to want to go to bed anymore, but I imagine it would be different if I was at home. Your husband, Roy. November 29th, 1943. Dear wife, I suppose that you are all full of fresh meat now, but I would like to have a good piece of deer ham, but don't guess I'll see any this year. But maybe next year I'll be there to do some hunting.
January 5th, 1944. Santa Ana Air Base, Santa Ana, California. Dear Francis, I received the Parker 51 and like it so much. I'm riding with it now. I was thinking, if it's okay with you, I'll keep it and send Alois, my older brother, the Lifetime Evershark 995. It's about the same price pen as the P51 would be at the PX. What do you think? I'm enclosing a check for $17.10. And thank you so very much for taking care of my Christmas obligations. That was so very sweet of you. All my love, Barbara.
June 1st, 1943. My dearest Eleanor, the situation here with these people in North Africa is terrible. The Germans have had all these towns and they left the people nothing. No clothes, food, or anything to speak of. Saw this with my own eyes. People with buckets fighting over garbage. In fact, slop to us. Sure does make you have a funny feeling to see grown people and kids doing that. They have money, but there's nothing to buy. I haven't seen any place yet that has been the scene of a battle. They have had some skirmishes around close and a few air attacks. I'm still wondering how I will feel when I do have one. Hope I have to keep wondering for a long time. I am also going to be disappointed like you about my not being home when our baby is born. I'd always look forward to that day when I could walk in, be presented with a fine boy or girl. Yours always, Baskin. My dearest, went on a trading expedition this afternoon. Carried a cake of Lifebuoy soap, traded it to an Arab for 2 mattress covers full of straw. Maybe my bed will be some better tonight. These people over here are crazy about soap. Get more with soap than you can with money. Yours always, Baskin.
January 19th, 1944. Dear Vivian, well, there are a lot of things I can't tell you, but I'm going to write anyway. We landed out here safely in the Pacific on an island, and it is very beautiful in places, but as usual, we are located in one of the rougher parts. I'm well, and everything is going fine. Living in huts and getting plenty of athletics. The weather's so fine, and I'm really enjoying myself. Play ball with my shirt off while you folks are wearing heavy coats and sitting by a fire or maybe wading in the snow. Got our first meal today in 3 weeks. It was all old, but we really enjoyed it. I know you're not hearing from me very often, but you will from now on, I hope. Yours, Roy. February 3rd, 1944. Dear wife, the news sounds as though the war is going pretty well in our favor, but it can't get over soon enough for me. You were talking about me having a little money when I get back home. I feel like tonight I would need it, for I will be too old and stiff to work too much. Good night, with love and all good wishes.
January 23, 1944. Dear Ma, Amy, and Joe, this past week was beautiful. The weather was clear and cool all week, and we all had a good time. But the first week was nasty. It rained and sleeted and snowed. We went to bed one night, and it was raining, and during the night it froze and sleeted, and we had to use our bayonets as ice picks to get the tent flaps open so we could get out. 4 of us slept together in a double tent. It was dry inside, and we were able to dry our clothes by the fire every night. So we went to bed warm and dry. The snow collapsed a lot of the tents, but mine stood up good. The snow stayed on the ground for about 5 days. Love, Leon.
July 12th, 1944. Dibble General Hospital, Menlo Park, California. Dear Francis, I'm sitting listening to the Santa Ana Army Air Force's program. It's 8 p.m. now, and I go on my month of night duty tonight. Gosh, it seems so good to hear that program again. I sure missed you after you went home. In fact, it didn't seem like you could be gone, so I almost found myself planning something to do when I could get off duty. Say, they're having a big time on the radio. They're supposedly reading out of a dictionary composed by a cadet at Santa Ana. A PX is a store for soldiers that has everything for soldiers, only they're just out of it now, and besides, there's a war going on. Lots of love until I hear from you. Barbara.
June 17th, 1943. My dearest, could be that I won't get paid for a long time. Then we would have that much more at one time. Hope you aren't needing the extra. Maybe you should give me a financial report of our standing. Really, I am interested in knowing how you're getting along. I love you, heaps. Yours always, Baskin. P.S. Tell all hello for me. I think of them even though I do not write them. The reason I don't write is that censoring the mail is such a job until sometimes our mail is held up here in camp for several days before it gets out. Isn't anyone's fault, just so much else to do. I love you again.
June 27th, 1944. Dear wife, I would like to be there to go swimming with you. It wasn't very often that we ever went. But I think that when I get back, we will do some things that we didn't do before. We'll close for tonight with love. Your husband, Roy. September 2nd, 1944. My dear wife, on our way back to camp this afternoon, we visited 2 soldier cemeteries. One was American. They certainly are kept up nice and clean. The crosses at the head of each grave are just as straight as a line. Makes you appreciate the poem of In Flanders Fields, where it says, in Flanders fields where the poppies grow, between the crosses, row on row. Your husband, Roy.
September 19th, 1944. Dibble General Hospital, Menlo Park, California. Dear Francis, nothing new except rumors. Rumors have it for Thursday or Friday. There have been quite a number of girls who received some notice since. All right again. Goodbye, my sweet Barbara. October 8th, 1944. Voyage to Europe at sea. Dear Francis, although it will be a couple of days before this can be mailed, I will begin it now while I have time. After my last card, we spent a couple of weeks in preparation. We slept in double-deck beds, and Smarty Pants got the lower deck, of course. Our days were filled and overflowing, and any free moment was snatched up and put into good use by bathing, doing laundry, and catching a much-needed 30 winks. We received shots until we'd make a civ feel ashamed, lectures, issued clothing, etc. It seemed we were always in line, marching to and from someplace, until I've gotten to get so angry in any line I see forming, not even questioning its purpose or goal. Our last day, we arose at 4:30 a.m., had breakfast at 5 a.m., boarded a troop train with the support of an army band, and took off to a destination unknown. We wore a Class A uniform. Over it was our overcoat, and around our waist we wore a heavy khaki utility belt. Extending from over our shoulders were suspenders, straps, and more straps. Buckled to these and resting on our upper back was a musset bag, which, when filled with emergency necessities, weighed about 20 pounds. Resting on our left hip and back was a gas mask, which must have weighed 10 pounds. On the right hip and back was a canteen flask of water. Atop our heads, we wore helmets with a chalk number and letter representing our train car and seat. I forgot to mention that our trench coat with its wool liner weighed easily 15 or 20 pounds. You can imagine what we looked and felt like. In a lecture, some days before we left the processing camp, an officer spoke to men and women officers and said, "You men will all be straining your necks to see the nurses board the ship, but it will be to no avail because all you'll see is a bunch of equipment." No truer words were ever spoken. Accommodations for GIs, because of their even greater number, is a little bad as far as personal hygiene. Their quarters are larger and more crowded. You can be glad alloys had the accommodation he did going over and didn't have to sleep in a room with 210 bunk tiers. They sit around, smoking and singing. Usually the songs have reference to home and we'll all be back when it's over there, etc. They like to find a nurse or two walking together without an officer escort so they can sing to them, tease a little, and match states. Don't destroy this letter, as I might want to write a diary later on. My adventures in the last war. Love and kisses, Barbara.
April 8, 1944. Dear Ma, Amy, and Joe, I am on the East Coast. Where? I can't tell you, but I am still in the U.S. All our mail is censored now, so I can't write very much. Love, Leon. April 9, 1944. Dear Ma, Amy, and Joe, we landed somewhere in Italy, and I am at a training camp. I am okay and feeling good. I sent a cable today, so let me know how long it takes to get there and how long it takes for V-mail. We had a good trip over. The weather was fine, except for a few stormy days. I hope you're all okay, and don't worry, all is all right. April 18, 1944. Dear Ma, Amy, and Joe, don't send me any onions, anything else but that. You can send me some small cans of fruit, pears or peaches or something like that, but don't waste too many points. April 21, 1944. Dear Ma, Amy, and Joe, last night I went to a movie. I saw Pistol Packin' Mama. We have a movie here 3 nights a week, and the Red Cross gives out coffee and donuts after each one. When you send me a box, use newspapers as packing so I can read them. You can send me some chocolate candy, too. I'll be waiting to hear from you, so write me a lot. Love, Leon.
November 11th, 1945. I'm now at the U.S. Naval Air Station at Anacostia, D.C. as an orographer, or a meteorologist, is what you would call it today. Dear Mother, Shirley Pateffi and I went to Washington. We took in the Mellon Art Gallery and the Capitol Building and the Library of Congress, and then we went to Hogate's for dinner. I had the lobster thermidor, and Shirley had the lobster Newburgh. Both were delicious. We then took a cab uptown and started looking for a movie that we hadn't seen. What do you know, we'd seen them all. We turned down at least 4 pickups. 2 of them looked pretty nice, but we weren't interested. Then, we went to the USO for a dance. And so help me, I hate men. It seems they're all alike, one-track minds, and I do not like their train of thought. That is the first time I have ever been propositioned. And I came nearer to knocking a Marine for a loop in the middle of the dance floor at the USO. He didn't want to take no for an answer. We left about 10:30, so disgusted with men in general, and soldiers, sailors, and Marines in particular, that we hunted up a hamburger store and had a hamburger. We had several more chances for pickups then, and 2 sailors looked like nice kids, but we were too tired to take a chance on the struggle, so we turned them down on their proposals of a movie and sought the bus to Anacostia. Love, Dolly. I like you. I love you.
September 4th, 1944. My dear wife, you must be getting really good looking that people don't recognize you when talking to the change. I'm beginning to think that you really are fixing up for another man. That'll be all right with me if you can catch him. Your husband, Roy. March 3rd, 1945. My dear wife, we are at another place now that is much better than the last one. We are in a coconut grove near the ocean, and thank goodness there aren't many flies or mosquitoes. We are very delighted with the place and also the people, but hard to tell how long it will last. Good things in the Army don't usually last very long. This is a beautiful Saturday evening, and I wish you were here to enjoy the nice tropical evening. Of course, I would just as soon be at home with you and Dad. We received some mail this evening, and I got 4 letters from you. The latest was February 13th. We were really glad to get some mail again. Your husband, Roy.
July 28, 1943. My dearest, yes, as you have already guessed, I'm in Sicily. Believe I like it here better than I did in Africa. Not as hot and has lots of advantages. I have seen a bit part of the island already. No, I've not seen any action. In fact, I won't be apt to see any. Being with the supplies, I will stay pretty much in the rear. In every area we get, they are all over the place, either begging or trying to sell something. I bought eggs, tomatoes, peaches, plums from them. They prefer to trade for our rations. Yours always, Baskin.
November 6th, 1944, near Paris. Dear Francis, well, we're enjoying our new assignment very much. I'm working on a nice floor, and everyone is congenial. As of yet, I haven't seen much of the country, but I hope to in the near future. Last night, I went to a party of about 50 officers. Most of the girls were French. They spoke some English. The girls are, for the most part, very beautiful and remind one of pictures in the Vogue magazine. There was one young man, 19 years old, whose father is quite wealthy and owns considerable property. The party was given in an old French chateau owned by his father. Most everyone wears wooded-soled shoes. Even the girls at the party had pretty dress shoes with 3/4 inch of wooden soles. Their clothes are made of very good wool, a lot of soft botany wools, also black velvet, high fashion. Their coiffures are high pompadours and rolls, or long shoulder-length bobs like our girls. Everyone is swell. The officers at the party all asked me to dance, even though I came with a date. They come up and welcome with, "Say, a good American gal," and then tell the French girls that you're typical of their girls at home, meaning to imply that all beauty isn't in Paris. It all sounds like pure flattery. The nurses don't have to want for dates and places to go, even with all of the French lovelies. All my love, always, Barbara.
May 10, 1944. Dear Ma, Amy, and Joe, yesterday I had a pass and went to a nearby Italian village. I bought some cameos while I was there, and I'm going to mail them as soon as I get the package censored. The white cameo with the picture of Mount Vesuvius and the one with the raised head is for Ma. The cameo with the castle and the boy fishing and the biggest coral necklace is for Amy. You will have to have it mounted. The two dark ones are for Jean and Marion. They are carved from lava from Mount Vesuvius. The different color means it's from a different eruption. Keep this so you know which is which, and mail the ones to Marion and Jean. I am okay, and hope you are too. I'll be waiting to hear from you, and I will write again tomorrow. Love, Leon.
November 19th, 1945. Dear Mother, I went to the movie last night with Johnny. It stunk. Don't see she went to the races. Johnny is half Italian and half French. He's very nice to do things with because he isn't a wolf, which seems to be most unusual in this section of the country. You know my opinion of most foreigners, but Johnny's fun and nice, and I don't see any reason why I shouldn't go places with him as long as he remains that way. Do you? After all, I'm not going to go falling in love with any sailors. You know I'm an army brat. Love, Dolly. I like you. I love you.
July 31st, 1943. My dearest Eleanor, I still haven't gotten the one bit of news I'm waiting for. Still, I'm looking for it every day. I know it will come one of these days, and it really will be welcome. Yours always, Basket.
June 7, 1944. Dear Ma, Amy, and Joe, how is everybody getting along? I'm okay, and hope you are too. How do you like the news from Italy up to this date? All I can say is that I marched through Rome. The people were really happy. I was never kissed or shook hands more in all my life. Tell Joe I had some of that Italian bread he used to talk about. An Italian woman gave me a loaf of hard bread and a big piece of white cheese, and we had a lot of wine. It was sure good. Rome really is a beautiful looking city. I'll write the next time I get a chance, so don't worry, and write soon. Send me some candy. Love, Leon. June 28, 1944. Dear Ma, Amy, and Joe, yesterday I received the box of cookies you sent. The box was in good condition, and the Mundel bread was still fresh, and no crumbs.
April 20th, 1945. Dear wife, I'm not working so hard the last few days. I do some guard duty and run a few short patrols. My ankle and foot are still bothering me some, but it is getting some better. Things are going pretty well here. We've been eating a little better for a while. Now I have plenty of cookies and candy also. You were right in thinking that I would like to take a good bath and get to that good bed. I'm tired of sleeping on the ground by myself. But I do have a bamboo bed for now, but no bedfellow. Your husband, Roy.
November 15th, 1944, dear Paris, dear Francis. The weather here in France is cold and damp. Everyone has colds. It rains about every day. Not a lot, but enough to keep things damp. It would be sensible to have some short snuggies, two-piece, or even those little white cotton t-shirts for warmth. Stockings must be purchased by points from ration cards, and only the French have those cards, so some nice rayon hose would be okay. I'm enjoying my cotton hose for work. They're going to stop cigarettes in our ration allowance. Could use Kleenex or plain white handkerchiefs. I'm seeing Paris by bits, and the other cities of interest surrounding it. We have many invitations to go out socially, and the fellows have been most courteous, always. As far as I can see, one has a good chance of behaving oneself and acting like a lady. Chances to go places are more than one can fulfill, so one can be a little choosy and also go out. Love, Barbara. November 26, 1944. Dear Francis, at times we are very busy, and then again we have slack days. Really, we could have been terrifically busy today, but I worked out a system which helped considerably to lighten the workload. I had patients bathing patients. These patient workers, not being used to such work, stand a good reach from the patient they are bathing. It gives the appearance of one washing a dirty old cat. They get the washcloth in a sort of wad and scrub away with a stream of water trickling from the cloth. When it comes to the leg, they hold the leg straight up in the air. It's comical, so of course no one laughs. I've been going with a nice Air Force pilot and having a grand time. I've seen a lot of the sights of Paris that you will see in magazines and newsreels, especially those concerning the liberation. My flyer gave me some Chanel No. 5 that would cost at least $35 in the States. We went to some club the other evening and they had quite a large floor show performance. The club was Lolito. In one scene, quite a few showgirls were entirely naked, except for a diamond-shaped cloth covering their... Woo! I was just shocked. In fact, after I saw what was going on, I did not watch that particular scene. Love and kisses, Barbara.
August 5th, 1943. My dearest Eleanor, you should have been around supper last night. Here was the menu. Hot chocolate, meat and bean stew with the following added from our managed stock. Cut up onions, tomatoes, green pepper, garlic, and some cheese cut up in the mixture. We added 2 packages of bouillon soup and water. It really does have good flavor. The only trouble is the after effects. You know what I mean with all those beans and garlic. I have plenty of competition in that respect with Bob. He's run me out of the truck several times. No wonder with all that stuff. Yours always, Baskin.
July 4, 1944. Dear Ma, Amy, and Joe, I had a good time yesterday. I got a pass and spent the day in Rome. All I did was go sightseeing. I went to the Vatican and saw the Pope. He spoke in English so we could understand him. I saw the famous Swiss guards. Some had blue uniforms with gold helmets, and some had on yellow and orange uniforms. The Pope had on a white robe and cap. He gave out medallions that are blessed, and even a Jewish boy from Savannah can appreciate that. I am sending it in this letter for you to see. I went to St. Peter's Cathedral. I thought the cathedral at home was a beautiful place, but this one has got them all beat. It was really beautiful, and all the pictures are not painted, but are made of real small colored stones put together to form a picture. It is called mosaic. I saw the Colosseum, the Castle of St. Angelo, which looks like a fort, and the Memorial of Victor Emmanuel, which is a big building with a lot of statues and fountains. I saw where Mussolini made his speeches from, too. Love, Leon.
April 30th, 1945. Dear wife, I went to church at an Air Base chapel yesterday, and the chaplain was a very good speaker. I liked his sermon very much. He spoke from Matthew 6:33. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. We also had communion service after the regular service. It seems good to go to church again, and I hope that we don't have to miss so many Sundays from now on. I'm just praying for the time to soon come when I can go to church with my friends and loved ones at home. With love, Roy.
May 3rd, 1945. My dearest husband. I often think to myself when I'm at home, if only Roy would come walking in. I just thought to myself last night after I went home from the show, if I could only see you. I could have cried, but I didn't, because I knew it wouldn't have helped matters one bit. And I know that you would like to be at home as much as we would love to have you. Your loving wife, Viva.
Christmas Day, 1944, near Paris. Dear Francis, the last few days we have not been allowed to leave the post, but could have visitors, which made everything okay. The eve of December 24th, everyone off duty went caroling in the hospital, or gave out gifts to the patients. Then we had a nice party at the officers' club, and after it closed, most everyone went to midnight mass. I forgot to say, The WACs did most of the singing through the hospital, while the officers and nurses sang outside on the grounds. American and German patients alike were able to hear the carolers, and both groups of patients had a Christmas tree. The German patients attended Mass this morning, too. I am working with German patients now. A patient is a patient, though, and they receive very good care and seem happy. Love and kisses always, ever yours, Barbara.
July 28, 1944. Dear Ma, Amy, and Joe, the other day, 2 of my buddies and myself got tired of K-rations and craved food, so we went out and borrowed a few. 8 chickens from a nearby farm. We got some olive oil to try to fry them with, and some onions, tomatoes, potatoes, and Italian bread. I helped cook, and now you know how I appreciate Joe's fried chicken. We did the same thing the next day, but we were out of olive oil, so we had to stew them, and we made soup and tomato and cucumber and onion salad. We really had a banquet. Even had wine to top it off with. Joe would like it over here, as the people drink wine just like it was water. Everywhere they go, they give us wine, not by the glass, but in the cork bottle. But there is no beer here, except for a small amount made by the Army, especially for us. And we get that about once a month. You asked about the stores in Rome. There are a lot of very modern stores there, but they don't have anything different. And most of the things are old styles, and the prices are too high for anybody to think of buying anything. They wanted 8,000 liras, or about $80 for a tablecloth. So that would be worth about $5 back home, and $20 for a cheap-looking scarf. So you see why all I did was sightseeing and eating. The Army has taken over some of the large, swanky restaurants in Rome, and soldiers eat like millionaires with waiters and everything else for only 10 cents a meal, where the Italian restaurants charge $4 to $5 for a meal. Love, Leon.
August 7th, 1943. My dearest, yesterday I ran into an Italian woman who could speak English fairly well. She told me how the Germans had treated them. They had gone to the hills for protection. When they came back, the Germans had broken into their homes and took possession of everything. They dare not protest because they would be killed. They really do hate the Germans. They like Americans because they pay for what they get. Yours always, Baskin.
May 13th, 1945. Dearest Roy, maybe you think I wasn't a happy wife when I got 4 letters from you on Friday evening on my way home from work. And they were all pretty lengthy ones. I do not see how you do it, but thank you a lot for all of them. I hadn't heard from you all week until I got those 4. The last one was dated the 30th. Your loving wife, Viva. May 20th, 1945. Dearest Roy, this sure is one lovely day here, and my, how I wish you could be here to enjoy it too. Without a doubt, we'd be out in the car somewhere, and we would both enjoy that. Your loving wife, Viva.
January 24th, 1945, near Paris. Dear Francis, Sunday night we went to the Air Corps party and had a swell time. Everyone just put themselves out to make the dance a success. The music was excellent. The chateau the Air Corps officers live in has a little history. It was occupied by a king, I believe, in time past, and since the furnishings were still in place, left intact by the present French owner, it was very picturesque. I saw a large, ornate china bowl that Mary, Queen of Scots, had presented to the ancestors of the present owner. Maybe it won't be too long before the war is over in this theater. I'm sure glad I'm not in the Pacific Theater, and I hope I never go there. Goodbye this time. Love and kisses, Barbara. March 26th, 1945, near Paris. Dear Francis, I'm doing fine and feeling swell. I am working on a surgical ward. We are caring for men wounded in battle. They get the best medical attention and do very well. I might add, their morale is high, and they are all like brothers with their kiddings and goings-on. I just love when they come to me with big troubles of some sort or another. Sometimes I tease them a bit, and even exaggerate the problem until they break into a smile and even have to laugh at themselves. They call me Peaches. Wherever they got that name, I don't know, but over a floor of 186 patients, it is a common practice. And they aren't always jesting when they address me in this way. They are often making serious inquiry about problems that confront them. Love and kisses, Barbara.
July 30, 1944. Dear Ma, Amy, and Joe, I have just finished the Mundle bread. It was really good. I like the box of chocolates and the pecan brittle. August 10, 1944. Dear Ma, Amy, and Joe, I got a letter from Jean telling me how much stuff she canned, and also some candy from Marion. Write soon, as I like to hear from you. I'm okay and feeling fine. I hope you are too. P.S. Send me a box.
November 19th, 1945. Dear Mother, I'm afraid I'm going to become like Diogenes. He was the old Greek who went around with a lantern looking for an honest man, wasn't he? Well, I'm going to start looking for a fellow who has ideas of a nice, good time, and I'm afraid I'm going to have the same luck Diogenes had and not find one. Johnny and I aren't going out anymore, by mutual agreement. He's nice, he's intelligent, and he's fun, but I can't give him the kind of good time he wants from a date, so that is that. Evidently, I'm one of a very few, for McBee came in early the other night because the girl she went out with had picked up with a very nice-looking, intelligent sailor and was headed definitely in that direction. Maybe I'm old-fashioned, but there are a few things that I hold sacred, and love and marriage is one of them. Looks like you're gonna have an old maid for a daughter, Mom, but maybe somewhere there's a nice, slow fellow who still has the home and fireside idea of marriage and would want to marry me. Love, Dolly. I like you. I love you.
May 9th, 1945, near Paris. Dear Francis, I suppose you've read of all the celebration in Paris, and what I can tell you about it will not be much. Being on night duty, I didn't get to go into Paris to view the festivities for myself. The girls that did go in, though, said it was really hilarious. People were kissing, laughing, crying, and generally celebrating the victory of the Allies. 2 cute little GIs came in from Pass tonight with tired feet and big heads from champagne. They told me how they were snatched up and kissed by the crowd, and I told them I was disappointed at having missed the opportunity to kiss all the boys. They said they would enjoy the kiss just as much here as they would have in Paris. I gave them aspirin for their headaches and suggested they get some rest to remedy their condition. I like all of them. They are so dear and so like brothers. The general reaction among the patients was that we're not through yet, as long as we have the Japanese to fight. I think many of them were making noise and hilarity for the simple reason that this gave them a good excuse for releasing their emotions. These fellows have been used to a lot of activity overflow with energy, but not when they're cooped up inside. Probably within the next 2 months, some change will come up for our hospital. I think we are required to clear out 60 days from the time the war is finished. So, we are just sweating it out. The celebration in Paris lasted 3 days. Lots of love, Barbara.
May 23rd, 1945. My dear husband, I said this evening at the supper table, I hope I get a letter this evening, but I doubt it very much if I do. But when I went to the post office, I had a letter written the 15th, and I was really glad to hear you. I haven't been hearing quite as often since you have been where you are, but you have told me several times that your writing materials is scarce, and I know why you can't write. Hun, I can't think of anything more to tell you tonight, only that I wish you were here to go to bed with me. It is now almost 11. We could really sleep good tonight because it isn't so warm. Your loving wife, Viva. May 29th, 1945. My dear husband, I couldn't go to sleep last night for the longest time. I was thinking about you and wondering what you were doing. I never forget about my husband, even though many miles do separate us. Your loving wife, Viva. June 4th, 1945. My dearest one, I was listening to the news this morning and I heard them saying something about the 39th Division. I was listening to hear if they would say anything about yours. Inez told me last night that she thought Miss Sylvia got a letter from you when she was up at the post office, but I didn't go up last evening. So maybe I will have one this morning? I sure hope so. I will say so long, and if I have a letter, maybe I can think of more tonight. Oh, my love, your wife, Viva. I never remarried.
August 12th, 1943. My dearest Eleanor, the news I've been waiting for came just a little ago. So, we have a daughter. That is all I know, since you tell me if I didn't like her name, it's my fault for not picking one out. Gee, I'm glad you're doing so fine. I think every one of the boys already knows about it, because they're calling me Pop. Remember, I love you. And I will love Suzanne, too. Yours always, Basti.
May 16th, 1945. Dear Francis, the Normandy Hotel in Paris is a leave center for Allied women. Each hospital has 4 rooms available to accommodate women for leave or overnight passes. It is a first-class hotel and centrally located. I hope you are taking things easy so we can celebrate when I get back and do some things we've always wanted to. Love, Barbara. After visiting Ireland and England, I was stationed in Belgium. On December 30th, 1945, I began my journey home. I went to New York on a hospital ship and flew to California on a C-47 Army transport plane. I was reunited with my mother and Alois on January 31st, 1946. My service years had left a deep emotional bond in my heart for those with whom I served.
August 13, 1944. Dear Ma, Amy, and Joe, I don't know if you've figured out my Army post office number yet or not, but I am in the 88th Division, which is one of the best in Italy. So if you see anything in the newspaper about it, cut it out and send it to me. We are called the Blue Devils, as our insignia is a blue 4-leaf clover representing 2 crossed 8s. This is the first time I could tell you, as the censor wouldn't pass it before, but you should have found out by my APO number. I hope you're all okay, as I am feeling fine. Right again soon. KND. Love, Leon. P.S. Send me a box of candy, cookies, and peanut brittle. September 9, 1944. Dear Ma, Amy, and Joe, I received the box yesterday with the fruitcake and fruit cocktail. I sure enjoyed them. But don't send me any more cocoa, as I have plenty. And no more soup, as I can't fix it. Love, Leon.
goodbye to our friends. However, isn't it wonderful that the Institute has more voices? Let's meet a few more of our friends.
PFC Wilson Kuntz Archive ID number 16.0031. My wife Dorothy and I were living in Memphis when I joined the Marines. We wrote each other from the time I went to basic training, but other than a letter during radio school, the majority tonight are from when I was sent to the Pacific as a radio operator with the 1st Battalion, 14th Marine Regiment, 4th Marine Division.
Kuntz and I married in March 1941. Our daughter, Rachel Ann, was just a few weeks old when he enlisted in 1942. We wrote each other religiously.
February 2, 1943. Dear Mrs. Kuntz, I love you. The first day of radio class is nearly over. After I eat at 5, I go back at 6:15 and off at 7:30. This stuff is pretty interesting and not too difficult. The hardest will be learning the code. The code is taught by sound and not by dots and dashes. We took up 7 letters today, and I knew those, but tomorrow we take up 7 more, so I may be confused some. We sit with earphones on during the code period. I love you, Kuntz.
March 5th, 1943. Dearest Kunzi, I don't trade it. We own a grocery store anymore. Jimmy the butcher started calling me Dot. He heard Dorothy McCaslin call me that, and that's what he calls her, but I sure didn't want him to call me that. As I didn't buy much there except meat, I guess I decided I could do without it. It really embarrassed me. Can you imagine such nerve? Margaret had trouble with the Kroger butcher, but they have a new one now. Guess they are low class, and that is their way of being salesmen. I just couldn't swallow it. The Fuller brush man came yesterday. He gave me a vegetable brush and a big bottle brush, or I can use it for glasses. He really didn't try to sell me, but he had so many things I needed. I bought a comb for 35 cents, guaranteed not to break, a baby bottle brush for 25 cents, a wall brush, $1.75, and a broom, $1.19. Total, $3.54. All my love, your wife.
Platoon Sergeant Ernest I. Thomas, Archive ID 98.0009. My formal name is Ernest, but most everyone calls me Boots, except for Mother, who calls me Booty, and my fellow Marines who call me Tommy. I am from the Monticello, Tallahassee area and enlisted in the Marines spring of 1942. I am sent to the Pacific with 2nd Battalion, 28th Marines, 5th Marine Division. My letters are to my mother, beginning with my first experiences at Parris Island. June 3, 1942, Parris Island. Dear Mother, I'm getting along just fine but working like hell. I have had my hair cut off, my teeth fixed, and taken 2 shots. We are quarantined to barracks now, so can't get paper to write. We'll start writing before end of week. Love, Ernest.
PFC Earl Bailey, Archive ID 03.0019. I'm from northeastern Oklahoma and went to Oklahoma A&M, now known as Oklahoma State, for a year to begin my degree in engineering. After my freshman year, I enlisted in the 102nd Infantry Division and the 405th Infantry Regiment. My mother died when I was young, so I was raised by my grandmother and my 2 aunts, Polly and Helen. These particular letters are to my Aunt Helen and my Uncle Ed. I'll begin reading my letters from when I went to Europe. September 24th, 1944. Dear Polly and Ed, as you can see, the trip was made and everything is going okay. But I guess you can't see. I'm writing from my pup tent that's pitched somewhere in France. I understand we had about the best time for crossing and feel myself to be potential Navy material because I displayed fine sea legs. With love, Bill.
January 22nd, 1946. Dear Mother, here I'm having a chance to see just what does go on in the world, and just what young people do with their time besides having a good time myself. For example, Ad wants me to go to a party Friday night with several other couples. They're going to get a suite of rooms somewhere and have some liquor. I haven't decided whether or not to go. Up to this point, I have said flatly, No. And Ad can't understand why. I think he knows me well enough to know what kind of a girl I am, and therefore I am also positive it would be okay. However, as you know, the whole idea is foreign to me, and I hardly know what it will be like. I suppose I shouldn't go, but Mother, how will I ever know what goes on and what to do and what not to unless I find out? You know my principles, and I know as far as I'm concerned, it will be as if the party were in our living room and you were in the kitchen. However, be that as it may, it will still be in a hotel, I guess, and I don't know how that will look. As far as the liquor is concerned, I know when to stop. And especially in a situation such as that, I would be most careful. Love, Dolly. I like you. I love you.
I am Eleanor Sparkman. Bascom and I married July 25th, 1937. Bascom was good about sending letters while he was overseas. However, sometimes I had to wait because he was unable to write. I cherished every letter he sent, and I read each carefully and often.
I kept a personal journal from late 1943 to late 1944 while I was sending letters home. September 15th, 1943. Landed in Italy at about 10:30 in my first air raid at 12. Sure made a dive for the hole. Nobody hurt, 2 Jerrys shot down.
September 20th, 1943. My dearest, I hope you haven't been worrying because of the long delay between letters. I know you know the reason for the delay. All I can say is that I am in Italy, feeling fine, and that everything is okay. I will say that we are in a much safer state than we were, because for a while things were plenty hot, and I mean hot. Yours always, Bascom. P.S. Tell Suzanne Daddy said hello.
January 28th, 1946. Dear Mother, I was glad to have your opinion concerning the party, but I'm afraid you're right about not understanding. I'm sure I never could have understood until put in the position to, but be that as it may, it was a good experience for me, and I suffered no ill effects whatsoever. I believe my answer next time would be no, although there was absolutely nothing wrong with what we did. I shall probably never have the opportunity again, but if I do, I shall know how to more gracefully handle a refusal. I'm glad I went, although it was against my better judgment. But it seemed to let me gain a little more social experience, and for that I am glad. Love, Dolly. I like you. I love you.
October 15th, 1944. Dear Paulinette, it seems strange to spend a weekend so calmly, but I have no desire to trek vaguely into the nearest village for sightseeing in the rain. What my bunkmate and I should be doing is bartering with nearby peasants for some straw. We need a Simmons Beauty rest rather badly. These French folk haven't much, but they'll toss you about anything for soap, sugar, or cigarettes. We filled 3 helmets with potatoes for 15 Lucky Strike cigarettes. For money, though, they care little. I haven't been near any action yet. Some time ago, I visited some German beach fortifications that had been thoroughly bombed by Allies at one time or another. Pillboxes and gun positions were mere rubble. French soldiers with whom some have talked fear our occupation of Germany might not be harsh enough since Americans are incapable of having real hate needed. With love, Bill.
March 11, 1944. Dear Mrs. Kuntz, we took off from our post in the Marshall Islands a while back and came to this place to rest. I'm using the word rest as with great reservation. My initial impression is that I'll get as much rest as I did in boot camp, for our campsite is pure frontier country, and I can look out the tent and forecast many a ditch digging and rock arranging detail. Our schedule here is 7 days work and liberty on the 8th. I'm not certain when liberty will be granted, but I'm gonna take advantage of it and go somewhere and find a great big steak. I love you. Kunzi.
March 23rd, 1944. My own sweet husband, I love you. I was so happy to receive your letter today, but I haven't the faintest idea where you are. I hope you found the steak and had a good time on your 8th day. Hope it isn't as bad as boot camp days. All our love, your wife and daughter.
June 1942, Sunday morning, Paris Island. Dear Mother, I didn't realize until today how long it has been since I have written. Honestly, I have been working so hard that I can't keep track of time at all. There is no way in the world for me to tell you how much we do here. We drill, practice landing parties, have bayonet drill, do physical exercise with the rifle, clean our rifles, clean the barracks, and besides all that, have as much to memorize and learn as I ever did in college or school. The responsibility of one man in the Marine Corps is more than I ever dreamed. Love to all. Booty. August 13, 1942. Dear Mother, I wired you as soon as possible letting you know what I was doing. Well, now you know. I have been told that I may be kept here as a drill instructor, but I didn't want to tell you until I was certain. One thing is certain. To my sorrow, I won't see action for a while anyway. I do not feel so totally bad about it, though, because I have been assigned to one of the toughest, responsible, and important jobs in the Marine Corps. Love to all. August 20, 1944. Can hear rumble of artillery in the distance. Destroyer in front has dropped depth charges, all on the alert. Coast of France sighted at 10:30 a.m. Had an air raid just before going to bed. Now I know how a bird feels in a cage.
August 29th, 1944. My dearest, for breakfast I had 2 eggs, the old-fashioned kind, bacon and coffee. The people here gave us the eggs. They really are good. The eggs and the people too. Bye for this time, darling. Yours ever, Bascom.
October 31st, 1944. Dear Polly and Ed, yes, we're busy with a steady diet of playing with Jerry now, and I'm writing from the classic phrase, somewhere in Germany. From French rain, we graduated to German cold, I guess. I've visited Belgium, Holland, and many places in France some time back. With love, Bill.
March 29, 1944. I wish I could tell you why I'm here in a hospital ward so you won't worry and imagine me all ensconced in a bed, unable to lift hand or foot. I guess I can tell you it's a common foe to any army, etc. The humorous thing is I'm only suspected of being that way, so I swallow so many pills a day to drive the bug out of my stomach. They declare it was something I ate in the marshals. All I think of is you and Rachel and the end of hostilities. I can see Rachel squeezing you now, and I know when she grabs hold of me, I'll just about melt away. I love you so much, and I look forward to that day when we will take up where we left off. Kiss Rachel. I love you. Kunzi.
March 29th, 1944. Dearest Koontz, I love you. Honey, don't feel so impatient to get into things again. You are safe where you are, I suppose. And there are plenty who haven't even seen the front that could do some of it too. Of course, you can't control it anyway, but I feel safer with you in a rest camp no matter how restless it may be. Take care of your sweet self. All our love, your wife and daughter.
October 26, 1942. Dear Mother, well, I guess the hardest part of my work with my new platoon is over. They are gradually losing their civilian tendencies and becoming Marines. It makes you feel good to see them snapping around like seasoned Marines and know that you are responsible for everything they know. Love to all. Booty. September 17, 1944. The shooting is loud. Can even hear the German machine pistol closer than I care to be. One of the boys just up, wanting some ammo to go get a sniper. No sniper caught.
September 17th, 1944. My dearest, the country is still pretty and the people are nice as ever. Just only trouble, I can't talk their lingo. Maybe I will get so I can understand some of it before I leave here. Yours always, Bascom.
April 17th, 1944. Dearest Coonsey, your mother, Daddy, and Virginia Coots came over yesterday morning to take Rachel Ann to be baptized. My heart flew into my mouth when I came down to the altar with Rachel Ann, and Dr. Gear said you were somewhere in the Pacific. But I didn't cry, and neither did Rachel Ann. She was simply perfect. Her hair was beautiful, and she looked all around, but quiet as a mouse. All our love, your wife and daughter.
April 24, 1944. Dear Mrs. Coonsey, I received your letter of the 17th about Rachel's baptism. I felt, reading your letter as you must have, walking down with Rachel. Honey, reading your letters about Rachel Ann and her development is a wonderful substitute for a bird's eye view. Your description, etc., take me right to 566. Nearly. Of course, it's not like really being home, but mere words can't express how much I miss you and Rachel. I love you. Coonsey.
September 21st, 1944. TP and I walked to the command post in town about 2 miles away. They were cutting a girl's hair who had been with the Germans. Command post located in a beautiful hotel. Only a few people have returned to town. The front is very close and they are still uncertain. Shells fell in fairly close during the night.
September 22nd, 1944. My dearest, this will surely have to be a short letter since news is very scarce with me this morning. We are having some nice weather again. Only thing, it is getting to be pretty cool early in the morning and at night. Yours always, Bascom. P.S. I love my 2 sweet girls.
September 27th, 1944. 155 howitzer almost blew us out of bed this morning at 6:05. They moved in last night about 100 yards back of us and started firing them. Sure did scare the fire out of us.
September 27th, 1944. My dearest, I have missed writing you now for a couple of days. There has been nothing particular wrong, just one of those times when there was nothing to tell. I have been sitting here trying to think of something to tell of interest, but for the life of me, I can't think of a thing. Yours always, Bascom.
February 28th, 1946. Dear Mother, Mother, you have no need to feel sorry that you signed my papers to join the Navy. Some of the very happiest times I've had have been with girls my own age at Anacostia. I found out that I can get along with people on my own, without the help of someone's putting in a poll for me here or there. You shouldn't worry about me, Mother, for you have no cause to worry. I may have been disillusioned, but I began to be disillusioned long before I came to the Navy. I think it is very fortunate that I was no older when I did find out about what goes on in this old world. For now I'm young enough to make the necessary mental adjustments. Love, Dolly. I like you. I love you.
March 21, 1943. Dear Mother, I've given up hope of becoming an officer. Frankly, I could have known one way or the other long ago, but I didn't want to go through all the red tape, etc., and then fail the physical as I knew I would. Because I'm colorblind. I'd rather be a good non-commissioned officer anyway. Whether I like it or not, it looks like I'm going to stay here a while longer. Love to all. Booty. April 15, 1943. Dear Mother, day before yesterday, I believe I had the greatest thrill of my life. In one of the most impressive and spectacular ceremonies in Marine history, we were reviewed and spoken to by President Roosevelt.
We had practiced for days, but no one knew that it was for him. Write soon and keep me posted on all the home news. Love to all. Booty.
December 5th, 1944, Germany. Dear Paulionette, this letter will replace one that I wrote many days ago in a straw-padded foxhole and never had an opportunity to mail. At long last, I have a real chance to sit calmly and pen out a few paragraphs. To say I've been busy is a gross understatement. Things have been mighty rough. We're relaxing in a German home for a while in grand contrast to recent weeks' steady diet of countless foxhole homes. Call them foxholes or slit trenches. They're a mighty wonderful invention. Thanksgiving had long passed before I even realized when it was, but I certainly had much to be thankful for. It now seems plenty ironic that months ago I was reading New York headlines proclaiming our victorious sweep into the Reich and the nearness of the war's end. Yes, the war's going okay, but now that I can see the Germans are prepared to fight for every yard, and now that I know what it can cost to move only 200 yards, I don't think it will end tomorrow. The Germans don't seem to know it's time for peace conversion yet. These months in Europe, actually short I guess, seem like years, and combat weeks seem endless. Days and nights just flow by without meaning, name, or numeral applied. Loads of love, Bill.
Penny Inn, July 29, 1944. Dear Mrs. Kuntz, this place is about the same as Saipan. Plenty of caves for the hoagies to hide in, plenty of rain at night, and plenty of my favorite coffee during the day, the soluble kind. We had quite an experience the first night and morning of the second day after landing. During that time, I really came to love old Mother Earth, about 3 feet down especially. Seats and I just pushed down our heads and our hard hats about to our necks and hoped for the best. When those guns were spiked, the sigh of relief I let out could be heard for miles. After all the goats and cattle in Saipan, this place is practically without them. I've seen no goats and only a few oxen. I guess the Japs had to eat them. Too bad they don't eat each other and solve this problem for all time. As a side dish, they should have eaten a few mosquitoes. I love you, Kunzi. P.S. Kiss Rachel.
July 31st, 1944. Dearest Kunzi, I love you. The progress on Tinian seems to be almost at a close. Hope you will be coming home. Surely they won't put you through another invasion. All our love, your wife and daughter.
October 15th, 1944. Up and had breakfast, shaved, and now sitting in the sun, watching smoked shells land on a hill where an attack is going on. Beautiful morning. Our fighting planes are patrolling overhead. The Cub planes are in the air. All in all, it was a thrilling sight. Expect to see Jerry planes anytime soon.
October 16th, 1944. My dearest one. Yesterday I had to clear another fellow going home on rotation. I'm still looking for my name to come up so I can clear myself. That is one time I will be excited. Yours always, Bascom.
December 20th, 1944, Germany. Dear Paulionette, for almost a week now I've been resting in a semi-hospital because of a mild case of trench foot. This is a condition something like frostbite, caused by overexposure to wet and cold. Mine are well on their way to normalcy again. It just takes time. With love, Bill. January 11th and 13th, 1945, Germany. Dear Paulionette, I had my cream army deal at stake, and maybe it was fitting that an infantry knee should follow. I'll not say I was glad to end up in a rifle company, but I can appreciate the pride of the infantrymen. At times in these short weeks, I know honestly that I've participated in attacks which were as rough as anywhere. In other words, I know I've seen the real war. With love, Bill.
June 25, 1943. Dear Mother, I waited a couple of days to write you so I could tell you that I am a sergeant. My warrant came through today, and my arms are weighted down with 3 stripes on each sleeve. Love to all. Booty. February 16, 1944. Dear Mother, the training is getting more intensive as the weeks go by at Camp Lejeune. We are being trained fast and rough so we can train our outfits in the shortest possible time and move across. So I don't think it will be as long as I expected before I leave the States. Love to all. Booty.
August 4, 1944. Tinian. Dear Mrs. Kunze, I'm still well and all in one piece, and the Tinian campaign is over. By now, anyone will admit that these Marines are really tough babies. I believe in future wars, the Japanese will rule out the Banzai attacks. I heard one fellow in the infantry say that was the only fun they could look forward to, when those fools made their last charge, just sit in the foxhole and have target practice. The news from Europe, etc. sounds good, so perhaps it won't be too long before something good for the troops happens. I've heard so many rumors since December 1942. I could write a novel on the influence of rumors on World War II. I love you. Kunze. December 19, 1944. Dear Mrs. Kuntz and Rachel Ann, I hope all this chatter hasn't seemed aimless to you, as I'm sure it's not. When I get home, I'll probably talk for years, recalling the attractive and unattractive people and situations I've known and experiences during this time. I love you, Kunze.
October 29, 1944. I had to stop and watch the planes dive bomb the Jerry's. Sure was a pretty sight. The bombs going off and the planes strafing on the way down, and the German attack made some noise. They evidently did not get all the German big guns because they threw some shells in our direction. I could hear the shells whistling through the air, and that is getting close when you can hear them. The air is full of planes, and I expect anything to happen.
October 31st, 1944. My dearest, enjoyed your telling me about Suzanne and her talking and new tricks. She is bound to be lots more fun for you now that she is big enough to halfway entertain herself. I do hate to think of her growing up before I can see her, but that can't be helped. I love you, remember. Yours always, Bascom.
January 22nd, 1945, Germany. Dear Polly and Ed, at present, things are quiet in our sector except for artillery outbursts. Outgoing shells are by far majority, but Jerry does toss back a few. It's funny how the first days at the front, you think all artillery, mortars, etc. sound the same. Now it's simple to tell from the blasts and booms what is trailing. Clearest in memory, once heard, is the German 88mm gun and shell. Nothing compares to that sound. The 88 missile travels faster than any rifle bullet and screams as it comes. I've seen them knock out tanks like a sniper rifle. We've no anti-tank equal. The steadiness and magnitude of our artillery shellings are great Jerry demoralizers. At Gelsenkirchen, the slightest movement in the valley rated as a big barrage, so they can only move at night. With love, Bill. January 27th, by flashlight. Dear Polly and Ed, the strangest feeling I've ever had over here has been at times we passed some of our previous battlefields. One in particular stands out. As you can now see it, there's only a huge barren turnip field some 3,000 yards long. There's no hint of past troubles, just barren desolation and meaningless ground between towns. No one visiting it could ever possibly realize what it cost us to move those 3,000 yards, or imagine the tempest of battle in our toughest attack. This was our sight of Thanksgiving Day, celebrating and seeing that cold, wet wasteland makes the terror of that day more unbelievable and unreal. It brings forth strange thoughts, I can tell you. With love, Bill.
May 7th, 1946. Dear Mother, this will probably be the worst job of typing you've ever seen. But even at that, I expect it's far more legible than my writing. And if you find a, according to the cloud atlas and or circular S interspersed with the general theme, just attribute it to the fact that I've just spent 45 minutes typing section 11-243 of the Orographer's Manual. It all happened thusly. My supervisor Brownie's been getting pretty well disgusted at people's having made so many mistakes on the logs. Saturday, 3 of us took observations, none of us ever having had logs as a monthly job. There was a rather complicated system of clouds that morning, which brought up an exception to the usual rule for entering the same on the log sheet. We all made the same mistake of not entering complete enough data of said system, although it was evident what was going on. About a week ago, Brownie said that when we made a mistake on the logs, he would have to type out the section in the manual that gave the instructions on entering such data. He explained the mistake to us this AM and assigned us said section. You know, I think even a Harvard lawyer would have trouble interpreting the Aereo's manual, but just the same, the typing was good practice, and he wasn't mad about it. He was just determined. Love, Dolly. I like you. I love you.
February 6th, 1945, Germany. Dear Polly and Ed, the Army is certainly an education in itself, and I think in many ways, you gain more from the Army than the Army gains from you. But you lose some things, like initiative. Take me. I have no personal ambition in this world as far as the Army goes. I have no hankering at all for ratings and stripes, while more of my old buddies are sergeants now. Yet I don't envy them. I have a beautiful job as a battalion messenger. I've seen my share of frontline combat and know for certain all the worries for your own movement, food, water, and life without worrying over a dozen others. I'll do my own bit, but all I desire is the war's end and civilian close. With love, Bill. April 2nd, 1945, Germany. Dear Polly and Ed, for pure ironic humor, I offer recent artillery firing by helplessly surrounded Jerrys caught in a pocket of Allied pincers. Not in TNT, but propaganda sheets which suggest that we surrender. There's no limit to the number and variety of subjects their leaflets expound. They must surely figure we're quite stupid and gullible. With love, Bill.
November 3rd, 1944. Had our first man killed yesterday. Landmine got him and wounded 2 more. Busy getting his personal effects together. My first, and hope last.
November 5th, 1944. Dearest, I have not been busy, just enough to do to keep my mind occupied. Still feeling good, so I guess I do not have any complaints. Hope you and Suzanne are fine. Just keep sweet. And remember, I love you. Till next time. Bye, sweet. I love you. Yours always, Bascom.
April 26th, 1945, Central Germany. Dear Polly and Ed, we had some fantastic experiences. After one point, our column was stopped by enemy in a woods overlooking us. ACAC guns firing flat trajectory were the main weapons. After a while in which we took a small beating, the prisoners began to pour in. Among the prizes was a German colonel who made a deal with our colonel. He said if we'd free him, he'd go ahead and round up hundreds of his troops, now spread out in positions everywhere. At 7 that night, we would meet him for a formal surrender of all such troops. It's hard to guess how much bloodshed was saved by this deal. Anyhow, it was like something out of fiction. I doubt if you can imagine how ironic such a situation really was. Only that morning, such Jerrys had been our mortal enemies, deserving our best weapons and worst hate, and had killed our buddies. Now we elbowed about in a camp with some 1,000 of them. Everyone became a little sarcastic about what good Joes these Nazis really are. We just misjudged them. Nearby was the scene of one of the atrocity buildings you may have read about that showed what really good guys these Jerrys are. The killings of war prisoners had just taken place a day or so before by burning and bullets. These 7 survivors out of the 1,000 victims which were brought to our camp, I doubt if all of them survived. Even after seeing the torture site and the bodies, the whole thing is impossible to believe. With love, Bill.
March 1st, 1945. Dearest Kunzi, I love you. The enclosed clipping was in the post office Monday afternoon. Someone had told them you were in Iwo Jima, and they called me. People have been calling ever since, mothers who have sons in. They have all heard from him all along, even on board ship. And my last letter from you was written Christmas Day. I am so worried I'm almost ill. I keep going, but I'm miserable. If they send you to Okinawa after this, I will be off the Marine Corps for life. I wish that strange people would quit calling, but you can't stop them. A few minutes ago, the radio said the postmaster had arrived on Iwo Jima, so I hope I get a letter from you soon. I love you. Love you, love you, love you, Mrs. Coombs.
May 24th, 1945, Germany or whatever it is. Dear Paulie and Ed, at present we are living in a German house and having the Frau there cook our meals and wash our clothes for us. There are 4 of us GIs, and the Frau and her little kid are as happy as everything at our living there. The housework and cooking and little problems she's truly excited about. It's a revival of a home life almost for her since her old man got captured or something at Stalingrad. When we first moved in, she had hidden all her sheets, bed covers, and little niceties of a home. Now these have all come out, and we treat her just like one of the family. She's just been tickled pink. She seems very sorry for the workings of the Germans and holds a definite view that Americans are just about tops. I'm making a point to show her all my pictures of my times and lives pertaining to Europe, particularly the atrocities, etc. She said the other day that she could not understand why the Germans became so brutal and all, when the Americans, for example, were so fair and good. With love, Bill.
March 6th, 1945, Wednesday or Tuesday, Iwo Jima. Dear Mrs. Kunze, I've been anticipating writing this for such a string of days, I scarcely know where to start. I'm still in possession of all my arms, legs, eyes, etc. I even added a few new accessories in the form of wrinkles and gray hair. It's hard to realize I was any part of that nightmarish scene. The first hours and days were the worst. Luckily, we moved off the beach without great misfortune to our immediate group and holed up in a shell crater. Soon all hell broke loose in the form of mortars, artillery, rockets, etc. Honey, I was as scared as I'll ever be, I'm sure. We were in a fairly safe hole, except for a direct hit, which would have been serious indeed. Seats and I just lay there trying to protect ourselves deeper and held each other's hands and prayed. I love you, Kunze. Dear Mrs. Kunze, March 11, 1945. Your letter written on February 24 came yesterday after dark, and to read it I buried myself under the blankets and used a box of matches lighting the way. I wish I could relieve the anxiety at this precise moment, but in a day or so you should have my first letter. If you have any of those copies of the paper announcing our stop at Iwo Jima, send them. Most of the fellows, including myself, have an unexplainable curiosity about what the papers said. I love you more and more. Kunze.
Dear Paulie and Ed, I've got 3 main weapons that I carry with me. A P-38 already German machine pistol, a Walther 32 carried by SS men, and a 38 Czech automatic. With love, Bill.
June 24th, 1946. Dear Mother, I have the application blank all filled out for Ohio State, but I have yet to affix a photograph. I have a snapshot, which I'm going to make do, and then I will send it in. I wrote for a transcript to be forwarded from Muskingum College to Ohio State as soon as I got back last week. Love, Dolly. I like you. I love you.
November 27th, 1944. Passed through St. D. People all over the place moving back. Pretty well tore up. Stopped on way, waiting for town to be cleared. 1 p.m., moving on. St. Marie, the next town, and the Germans had just moved out. The guide did not stop us, and we went too far. I mean, too far. Small village, plenty of houses, but not a soul in sight. Yet our infantry is up in a building, shooting down the street. Scared? You bet. We turn around in the street while the shells fly. Park the kitchen truck right by a dead Jerry.
November 28, 1944. My dearest, I am in a house now writing. This is by far the best place I have been in. Things are just clean as a pin and the house is new. About all I have been doing is riding. So lots of new country, but as things go, it is impossible for me to tell you more. Yours always, Bascom.
March 16, 1945. Dear Mrs. Kunze, the Battle of Iwo Jima has just been secured. At least, they have announced that organized resistance has ceased and mopping up continues. So it shouldn't be long now until I can set myself down in more comfortable surrounding than this and enjoy being alive. This peace is beautiful at sunset some days, if you can observe the scene while ignoring the more horrible aspects. The clear mornings are the best before all the action and dust begin. Kiss Rachel and remember, I love you. Kunze.
March 17th, 1945. Dearest Kunze, I love you. Oh, honey. Honey, honey, I feel so grateful and humble after reading your wonderful letter just received. Reads just like you talk. The news really got around and neighbors poured in. They all agreed it was the most wonderful letter. I've called so many on the phone and thanked them for their prayers. So wonderful to hear from you again. I feel like a new person. If they don't send you home, I am going to write Congress or president. I'm serious. All our love to your wife and daughter.
March 12, 1944. Dear Mother, I hope you got my wire okay because I didn't have time to write, but I will as soon as everything is settled. This is all I can say about me for the time being. I have never felt better in all my life, and I suppose you know why. Love to all. Booty. August 11, 1944. Dear Mother, I want you to send me something if you can. If you send it as soon as you get this letter, I'm pretty sure I'll get it in time. In other words, we are leaving. Don't worry at all about me for a couple of months because I don't think we are going into combat directly from here. Everything points to a little more training in Hawaii. Love to all. Booty.
August 8, 1945. Dear Polianette, the news now all proclaim the wonders of the atomic bomb. And maybe they've really found a war stopper and GI lifesaver. I surely hope so. But one can't forget how terrible kaput Germany was supposed to be. All I can say is I would hate to see the next war. Rockets and atomic weapons belong in Buck Rogers and Flash Gordon. The Orthodox Jerry's 88 was terrible enough for me. With love, Bill. I stayed in Europe as the chief accountant of the Merchandise Control Unit of the Army Exchange Service of Europe. I did end up in college. It was on the faculty of a couple of universities in the South, and eventually ended up in New York City doing business research.
June 21st, 1945, from Western Union. Arrived yesterday. Camp landing next in about 4 days. Call you from there. Love, Bascom.
Bought this pen June 23rd, 1945. Sum of $5, valued at $8.75. Guaranteed for 100 years.
1945. My darling, darling Booty, whatever am I going to do with you? I knew, darling, that you would do something wonderful, and I'm so proud of you. You know that, though. You've never had to climb a volcano for me to know how wonderful you are. What volcano? Mount Suribachi. My son and 2 others from his platoon raised the first flag on Iwo Jima. Tallahassee is just wild over the news. The whole of Monticello was waiting to hear your broadcast this afternoon. Our own Ernest I. Thomas Jr. Oh, the phone didn't stop ringing all day and last night after we got the first word over the radio. They wanted me to speak on the radio this afternoon in a Red Cross program. Calls have been coming in from everywhere. Washington, D.C., Jacksonville, Tampa, Gainesville. Your picture with the flag was in the Tampa Tribune this morning. The original is going to be sent to me from Washington. I'm saving all the clippings, the wires, and everything for you. Oh, Booty, if I could just see you, I'd tell you to be a lot more careful. It isn't glory that I want. I want you to come back. All my love. Mother.
I love you. This morning I gave Rachel Ann a sack to play with and she filled it up with dishes, blocks, dominoes, beads, etc. Then she said, I will show my daddy how nice I do this when he gets home. You tell my daddy he wants to come home. I gave her one of her handkerchiefs to put in her pocket. She said, who gave me this? I said, I can't remember. She said, my daddy sent it to me, I believe. She wants you so much. And it looks like it won't be much longer. Oh, honey, all our love, your wife and daughter.
August 14, 1945. Dearest Mrs. Coonsey and Rachel Ann, when that guy on the radio gave out at 4 p.m. with the news we've waited for so long, I nearly fell out. Just think, honey, it won't be long until we're together for good. And I mean good and long. The suddenness of the whole thing is staggering. Last week at this time, the thought never entered my mind that this week would bring such events. My mind is all at home now. Kiss Rachel Ann and tell her to get the big chair ready. I'll be coming like a cyclone. I love you, Coonsey.
We were able to share this with you because the Institute cherishes our lives and letters. If you have any artifacts related to the World War II era, please consider donating them so that your loved ones' legacies will endure and foster continued and valuable research. As for me, I did attend Ohio State, and I found a fellow who wasn't a wolf. I like you. I love you.